Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing one for the old guard, a 46mm Breitling for folks who thought that bigger was better back during the Schneider era. Of course, this is a modern Breitling Navitimer B01 Chronograph 46, so it incorporates some of the modern Georges Kern design standards, but this is definitely a throwback to a time when Breitling was always larger than life. So at 46mm in diameter, it's actually surprisingly thin. 13.9mm is thinner than I expected. From lug tip to lug tip, it's 51.6mm, which again is narrower than I would have expected across the wrist, and there's a 24mm spacing between the lugs. Georges Kern, CEO of Breitling since mid-2017, has decreed that while the watches may still be large in some cases, lug span will be shorter. So although this is a 46, I could wear it here on my 16cm circumference wrist, and it's thin enough that it will fit underneath many kinds of dress shirt sleeves. I would recommend this watch for a wrist no smaller than mine, but if your wrist is my size, it's going to fit pretty well. Also, as a tool watch, it helps to have larger scales to read. The strap is way upscale for an aviator's timepiece. Usually you'll see some sort of calfskin with a standard contrasting stitch on an aviator's watch. Here we get large rectangular scale alligator leather in medium brown. There's a lot of stuffing or bolstering to add thickness. We have that contrasting stitch, a folded edge. There's calfskin on the bottom. You can see there's no crimping, no gouging. This is a brand new Breitling factory strap. Gator on a pilot's watch is a statement of intent. This is a luxury pilot's watch. We have a single fold deployant clasp with spring-loaded twin trigger release. You can see externally it has a combination of polish and satin. That's a nice detail. You can even see there's a little bit of a beveling on the rim of the trigger for the system, so the detail is excellent. Taking a quick look at the case, it's simple and traditional. Vintage watches and watches that hew very closely to vintage design ethics tend to have very narrow case bands, and that's certainly what we find here. We also have sharp, angular, minimally beveled, squared-off lugs, once again faithful to history. Whether you believe the Navitimer debuted in 1952, as Breitling claims, or 54, as some experts claim, there's no denying that this would have been the shape of those original Navitimers. And taking a quick look, we have pump pushers, again, no screw downs, this is not a dive watch, and a simple knurled crown with the Breitling B on it. We have a bidirectional rotating circular slide rule. It is a logarithmic scale, easy to use, and I'll show you how this works. So let's say we want to divide 80 by 5, right? Okay, so we're going to divide 80 by 5. So I put 80 over 5, then I go to the index, and I know that 80 divided by 5 is 16. I look, the index is 10, and I can see 80 divided by 5, you got to do mental decimals, is 16. Now, I'm going to take a quick look at what something along the lines of, let's talk about 20 times 4. You just look over 4 and you see 80, so it works backwards. That's how that works. You can do other things with it, but most calculations performed on these circular slide rules will be multiplication and division. Again, you just have to do the mental decimal because it doesn't give you decimals. Now, taking a quick look, silver outboard, blue metallic sunburst inboard, and then tone on tone where we have silver subregisters. Georges Kern wants you to think of in-house calibers when you see tone-on-tone subregisters on contemporary Breitling watches. And indeed, this is the B01, which means it is an in-house caliber. It's a vertical clutch column wheel chronograph, with the column wheel being one of the best feeling and sounding in the business. Really, it's as good as the likes of the Rolex 4130 or the Longa L951 in the Dotograph. I would say it's actually sharper and louder than either. You could see the crenellated column wheel, traditional way of building a chronograph, and Breitling has a glorious history in chronograph design. The B01 debuted in 2009 on the Chronomat collection, but it's found its way generally across Breitling model lines. Now, you also have the vertical clutch, which means when you engage the chronograph, there's no jump or stagger, and it always resets perfectly to the index up at 60. So you have the column wheel for crisp operation, and the vertical clutch for smooth, seamless engagement. Plus, you can leave the chronograph running full time. If you just like to see it running, you can do that with a vertical clutch because there's no additional wear and tear. Now, we have sunken sub-registers with little flanges outboard for reading the scales, and then concentric patterns inboard. We have silver white, to be honest, red and blue on this dial. We have the Breitling AOPA logo from the early days of the Navitimer. If this were an AOPA sanctioned watch, as the watch was in its early days, you would see the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association AOPA lettering across the stripe that diagonally crosses the shield. Now, the watch is luminescent. We'll do a quick lume shot and get a look at it. You can see it's luminescent. It's also a pilot's watch, so it's only 30 meters water resistant. Don't take it swimming. We have a couple of subsidiary setting modes. We have stop seconds, just like that. That's hacking. And then we have a quick set system, so you can rapidly set the date, flip it over. Although the B01 was not initially designed for display casebacks, those are pretty much the rule with manufacturer movements under Georges Curran, and so it's fortunate that the B01 actually looks really good. First, it's a large movement, so it fills this case. You don't get the sense that it's undersized. It is an automatic winder with a 70-hour power reserve, a 4 Hz beat rate. It pivots on 47 joules, and it is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer. You can see that it uses Edachron for fine adjustment of beat error and timing, which I like to see because Edachron makes for very fine adjustment indeed. You can see the column wheel, the levers, and the horns of the chronograph. We have Geneva stripes across the bridge, the winding system bridge, as well as across the rotor. The rotor is partially skeletonized so as not to block the view, and there is a media blasted sort of satination on the base plate with all the screws black polished. And again, chronometer certified. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.